Alright, good day everyone. So I thought I'd make this quick video just to show where I am with all this information concerning these plasmoids and just show you how real this phenomenon is. So I wrote this report here where basically I go into all the details about, here is Immaculate Constellation, and in this report it discusses the characteristics of these plasmas, right? So let's see what some of these are. We have irregular shaped, we have those that defy simple geometric descriptions, typically having a spherical or disc-like base from which irregular geometrics project. And I've got a reference video here from a plasmoid anomaly study group, which I thought I'd put on there for people to see. But yes, you see right here. Now, what people are going to say is, oh, it's a balloon, but you will definitely notice how this is, the protrusion isn't moving at all, right? And this is a known thing in many of these documents, which discusses this exact description. And actually, I think this one actually pops, like literally, but it doesn't fall to the ground. Like, here we go. See? And it continues. It actually morphs. It changes. He's still filming it. And this is what it turns into. Right? Like, yeah. Oh, okay. So that was the first example. Let's go to a different one. All right, let's see. Floating brain. Characterized by a central mass with multiple arms or spirals hanging downward. And this is what I linked for that. Might be the same anomaly. Yeah, it's the same one. I love this one just because of the colors. Like, it's so freaking beautiful. You know what I mean? Alright, so let's go to another one. Ringed saucers. Yeah, like, I don't know, this thing just looks crazy. And again, people are gonna say, oh, it's a balloon, but please tell me how the tether that's hanging from it isn't moving at all. It's these things are truly anomalous. There's no oscillation, there's no pendulum like movement. Let's go to a different one. Common observable behaviors, characteristics, sizes range from small objects to several meters. Yes, small object. Now, honestly, I write these things, and I actually do a lot of videos that I post on Reddit. Like, that's where my battle has been recently, trying to get people to wake up to this reality, because I just find it so amazing and beautiful. And it really sucks that people don't have the ability to put two and two together. And so that's what I'm hoping that I can do here with these reports and videos where I discuss all this stuff. Consistent tumbling rate, like, what? And what's even crazier is this is the exact thing that the astronauts from the STS missions described, saying, they said something reflective, it's metallic like, but it's definitely not rigid, Alright, and so basically, these are all the details from, and this is the Immaculate Constellation report, right? And then we can go over to Project Condon, which is another, it's the UK UAP report that was written. It's all about, plasmas and ball lightning. It's very in-depth, and I highly recommend everybody check it out. If you are interested and curious about this subject, you will not be disappointed. I am also pretty sure that this has some pictures of these things, you know. And these are, you know, old pictures, which is actually what I've been showing here. You know, these old UFO pictures, which I'm comparing to these plasmas that Trevor James Constable was taking. And for some reason this isn't playing. Sorry, guys. Alright, it should play now. But yeah, so like I said, we have, you know, different pictures from, you know, this is a government document right here, you know, taking pictures of these things and showing them in his report for ball lightning and these anomalous objects, you know. They really look the exact same as what Trevor James Constable's been posting. It's actually quite spectacular and riveting. If you know, pentagonal shape, you know. Let's see, Tokyo, 1986. Event for 25 minutes, 180 miles north of Tokyo, appeared to rotate. Alrighty. So yeah, we have that. And, you know, bead lightning, occasionally described as a string of sausages or elongated beads which can merge into a single glowing ball. Alright, what does that look like? Again, I'm still learning how to present this information in the best way that I can. So any tips or anything like that would really be great. It's like being a newscaster. And yes, today we will look at these plasmas. Here we go. You know, just a orb. Classic orb. Right? Alrighty. Let's see. You know, typically globes, sometimes with internal flames, hollow spheres. What does this look like? Yeah. Like, what? You know, and again, people will literally demand, say, oh, this is, these are balloons, you know? I mean, the Plasmoid Anomalies Study Group has over, you know, 2,000 of these videos. He's been doing this for over 10 years, and he's not the only one. There are many more people who have been filming these. Let's see, two linked balls. You know, we have another brain shaped with something protruding downward, you know, a very rigid tether or appendage, very similar to the jellyfish UAP, right? It just had a rigidity to it, where the spars on the bottom of it didn't move at all, right? Okay. Solid balls, burning appearance. Yeah, so like it's these characteristics are just the exact same that the other paper was discussing. And then I present more evidence of, you know, these plasmas, and that's of course the extraterrestrial life in the thermosphere, plasmas, UAP, pre-life, and the fourth state of matter. You know, this document here shows you know, the anomalies associated with these plasmas, discussing, you know, the Foo Fighter anomalies, how many people have seen them in the different STS missions, the, you know, STS mission reports. Let's see if I can find one real fast. I really recommend people reading this, and I've actually read some of this, and I have a video available on my channel that you can check out where I go through some of this stuff. Credited with the ability to accelerate. Let's see. Yeah, and so basically this paper is displaying the exact same characteristics as the Immaculate Constellation and the Project Condon report. This is my favorite one. STS-115 commander states, the best way I can describe it as some kind of reflective cloth, some type of metallic looking type of cloth, a structure which is definitely not rigid. It's not a solid metal structure. Alright. Oval shaped like a series of ellipses, you know, and each time a mission control says, oh, it's just space junk, or oh, this is just ice, but yeah, they they ain't buying it. Here we go. The flight crew of Apollo 11, as reported by Buzz Aldrin in a 1982 interview, saw outside the spacecraft something out there that was close enough to be observed by the three of us. And what could it be? Mike got out the telescope. It was oval shaped, like a series of ellipses. But when you sharpened the focus, it had an L shape. That didn't tell us very much. Obviously, the three of us were not going to blurt out, hey Houston, we got something moving alongside us, and we don't know what it is. We couldn't do that because we knew the transmissions would be heard all over the world. And so this ties in with a lot of the whistleblowers who have come out in reference to NASA, basically saying that, you know, they speak in code. Like whenever they see something anomalous up there, they refer to it as Santa Claus. Or yeah, they don't definitively say, hey, there's this thing out here. They say that it's something else, and the mission control will always tell them, you know, stay on vector, or it's nothing, don't worry about it, right? Let's see if I can find another one for you guys. NASA dismissed the sightings as just reflections. The STS-75 commander disagreed. I'm looking out in front of the orbiter. No, there are three objects. The one down at the bottom is the one we initially saw. It started over window 8, then quickly moved toward the upper windows. We tracked it through windows 1, 2, 3, 4, and now it's outside window 5. It's moving away. And then mission control changed the subject. You know, and this is something that you'll find countless times when looking at these cases from NASA and the ISS. So yes, that's that report. And I actually have a video. I've showed this video in my previous upload of the STS-75 mission, the tether experiment, where you can clearly see the anomalous movements of these, you know, plasmas, or what NASA calls ice, that can just magically change directions, can consume one another, can stop, can spontaneously form. They're over a mile long, you know, going behind the tether, which is 12 miles long, right? It's yeah, it's actually an embarrassment, and it's disrespectful, really, how stupid they think they can treat the population. But yeah, alright, so here's the Tedesco brothers report, who Eyes on the Sky, UAP research and field study off New York's Long Island coast. Now these guys, they sat outside, they got permission from a national park out there, and basically they, you know, developed, their engineers, they developed their own, you know, sophisticated tools in a RV, a vehicle that they retrofitted with all this equipment, and they actually have pictures of the equipment that they used. Let's see if I can find it real fast. I might not be able to, but basically these guys were able to film these, you know, plasma orbs, the same ones that I've posted on my channel, right? Like they pulse. They even have the app where they're able to see, you know, satellites or planes that are going over, and they know it's not that. And sometimes these things hover right above the water, then fly up and, you know, interact with a different one. Very interesting. This is a paper that I recommend everybody reading as well. You will not regret it. And there's actually an interview with the angry astronaut, which is very good, and a couple other people. I think the famed talking head Ross Coulthart interviewed these guys as well. Which, you know, I'm not a fan of Ross Coulthart just because I think that he's opposition. But the more eyes we can get on this stuff, the better. So definitely check that out. Oh, here we go. Here's an interview. And in this interview, they have images and videos of what they captured. So that's why I'm going to open this up for you guys right now. Oh, shit. Actually, you know what? I think I do recall the angry astronaut taking down his video. Maybe? I think. I'm not sure. Excuse me. But let's see if I can find some of the footage that they had. I really hope that I can to show you all. You'd imagine, you know, a UFO podcaster really being like, yeah, we'll show that footage. Shit, that's some good stuff. Let's see. Oh, tartar sauce. I cannot find it, unfortunately. But if you guys ask me, I will try and find it after this video, and then I will share it with you all. I do know that the channel Jin had these on. Let's see. Angry astronauts. Eyes on the sky. No. Dang. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so yeah, here's some of the footage right here. Nice. I knew it existed. Alright, yeah, so they're using LiDAR, that's what you're seeing right now, like a laser, basically finding out how far it is. And the interesting thing about these things is they're invisible to the human eye sometimes. They can switch from being visible to invisible, and they would pick it up on, you know, infrared, which is exactly what the jellyfish, the famed, you know, jellyfish UAP was seen on, was or thermal, I think. And these guys, they had a thermal camera, they had infrared, they had multiple different kinds of cameras that they developed for this excursion. But yeah, what you'll see are basically these orbs from far away, and you can find way better videos of these things from, you know, Plasmoid Anomaly Study Group, Mr. Anomalous. It's yeah, it's pretty amazing. There was a really, really good video. Here we go, right here. So yeah, these things will just hover, and I think it's this one that goes up, but they have one where you can watch it literally float up into the clouds, like pretty wild. I'll try and find it again. Oh well. Well, yeah, please, you guys, check out that paper and that interview. It's very compelling. Let's see, another strong similarities. Oh yeah, and another thing that I point out is in this is that all of the UFO videos that we get from the DoD or Jeremy Corbell, guess what? They're all black and white, right? And why do you guys think that is? Well, it's because they would be colorful as all get out if we saw them in their, beauty or whatever, as most of the civilian UFOs that we see on videos are, they're all very colorful. And yeah, I think that just has to be taken into account. And so now I wanted to share a little bit more of what I actually make and share with people on here. We'll go to my number one, my first most recent video that I made, which actually, you know what, I don't have to because I played it here for you all. That is right. So there's something else that I wanted to share. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, basically the reason for making this is just I want, the world to grow up, and I really think it's high time that we just accept what is reality, and stop all this ignoring of what is really going on, right? Like, we like to paint this little pretty picture of our world, and we just accept whatever the narrative is, when obviously the narrative is wrong. And you can see this in so many different fields. You can see this from, most recently, health and wellness, right? But you can see this in the ancient civilizations and megalithic structures. I think it's crazy, honestly, how they gaslit everybody into saying that the alternative perspective is racist, when it was actually the colonizers who went into those areas, let's say South America, Turkey, South Africa, and even America. They did it here in America and many other places, where you have these ancient stories speaking of, an advanced civilization, or sometimes gods or giants who built all of these megalithic structures. And the academic world literally just says, no, that's not true. It was you guys with your crappy tools. When you can see two different types of technological, buildings. Like, you can see one that's megalithic, perfect, beautiful, made out of granite, geomantically placed, aligned with the astrological signs and stuff like that. And then you have another one, which are just shoddy bricks and stuff that are stacked up. And yeah, they may look okay, but they're orders of magnitude less advanced than, the highly precise things that we see in the past. Like, on the micron level of precision, all interwoven with sacred geometry and representations of, astrological things, right? And it just gets kind of like I said before, it's disrespectful for real, like, to humanity, that they can just hoodwink everybody like that. It's the most disrespectful, I think, for real. But this is something that I made, and I just wanted to share it with you guys, and I hope this works out okay. I just really think it's a really interesting thing.
with the Vietnam soldiers with the infrared light or the night vision, the red night vision goggles. What were they seeing?
Some spectrum that spots the UFOs more frequently?
I'll have to be careful answering that question.
Okay, no worries.
There's, it's a good question.
Okay. Okay, I'm saying this, not you, but I think infrared is interesting to look
It
at.
is.
Yeah.
Infrared can tell you a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. Specific bands of it.
Yeah.
Oh, you explain that. Talk about that.
Okay, well, I don't know it
You made it
that well, but I just know, what was it? Was it Vietnam War?
Vietnam.
But they first
Attack
issued
helicopters.
their night vision goggles were in the red hue. Now they're in green. But why are they in green now? Why make the switch? Oh, it's because in the red spectrum, they were seeing quote unquote demons flying around the sky. They were shooting at them. I don't know if they were hitting them or they were
Yeah, they were saying they were shredding them.
Okay,
So
shredding.
these attack pilots, these attack helicopter pilots in Vietnam, were wearing these so they could fly without lights and that kind of stuff. In Vietnam. And groups of attack helicopters would start shooting at the same target in the sky, saying that it was a massive demon or something like that. Really quickly after, the U.S. government switched to green for reasons,
And they stopped seeing the demons.
Everybody stopped seeing the demons. But we've had several Vietnam soldiers on our Patreon come on and talk about when they had the red. They told you to never look at the sky. Like when you're on the ground using the red, they were very clear. You do not look at the sky with these things.
And what is that? I mean, I think that it might be these living UFOs. And,
Yeah, I believe it.
And then that opens a whole other box of, or Pandora's box, I would think, like conservation when it comes to that side of it. Because, that air travel industry is huge.
Oh gosh, and then
It's also crumbling, and the infrastructure is horrible because they're greedy.
The single largest environment that directly affects every person on the planet that I do believe has these big organisms in it, that countries in the Middle East and stuff like that are already actively mining for resources.
Like you mentioned the aeroplankton earlier.
They're actively melting down aeroplankton for fuel sources.
I mean,
with an environment we know nothing about.
So how is that affecting the other biomes?
Okay. So, oh yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. And basically what they're saying at the beginning is that the Vietnam soldiers, when they first got infrared, they were seeing these crazy things in the skies and they started shooting at them, and then that's when the military switched to green instead of the infrared. And the interesting thing about that is that is the exact same wavelength or light span that Trevor James Constable uses to capture the anomalies that he has here. Yeah, like all of this information, it compiles and it makes this beautiful tapestry of truth that anybody can follow. It just takes a little bit of research and you can see it very clearly. And so from that, I wanted to just read a little bit of some stuff that Trevor wrote in his book that I just find very, very interesting. So let's go. I think we'll start with this one. Kidding in no way diminished our curiosity. We kept on after the critters. No one had ever done anything like this before, and it was a tremendous thrill. The laws of these Etherean realms are essentially functional and biological, and they open themselves only to the researcher who, in his experimental work, has not lost his ability to play like a child. The searching organism is almost always playful. A sense of humor is essential, for experience quickly teaches the field worker that the stupidity and culpability of contemporary man must surely be the comedy of the gods. The critters had even aroused the USAF to some public theorizing as early as the 27th of April, 1949. On that date, the USAF stated in an official release, "The possible existence of some sort of strange extraterrestrial animals has also been remotely considered, as many of the objects acted more like animals than anything else. However, there are few reliable reports on extraterrestrial animals." This USAF release, which may have been originally intended as an opening wedge to further revelations of observations made by USAF air crews, was unwelcome in ufology. Spaceships had become idée fixe, and nothing biological was wanted to disturb or modify the basic extraterrestrial spaceship hypothesis. At the other extreme stood the original skeptic, Dr. Donald Menzel of Harvard University, eternally ready to discharge his self-appointed duty to debunk UFOs. He didn't like the USAF Space Animals release either. In his book Flying Saucers, Dr. Menzel took exception to this release. He pointed out that even one reliable report of an extraterrestrial animal would be sufficient, let alone a few, as the USAF had implied were in existence. What the USAF has in its secret files in this connection will not soon be revealed. Suffice it to say that the USAF uses infrared photographic apertures and detectors extensively and penetrates round the clock into the stratosphere with piloted aircraft. USAF radar blankets the United States. Let's see, should I read some more? Yeah, okay. And there's actually another case that's really, really interesting. So here we go. This is, I guess, this happened in 1934, okay? This report was brought to my attention by Mr. Adrian Cox of London, England, who saw its significance after reading an illustrated article of mine in the Flying Saucer Review for July through August of 1960. Mr. Cox connected this article entitled Space Animals, A Fact of Life with an incident recounted in the book Everest, 1933, by Hugh Rutledge. The Rutledge book was published by Britain by Holder and Strolkton, and in the United States in 1935 by the National Travel Club under the title The Attack on Everest. On page 228 in the American version, climber Frank Smith writes of the second assault on Mount Everest as follows. The second phenomena may or may not have been an optical illusion. Personally, I am convinced it was not. I was still some 200 feet above Camp 6 and a considerable distance from it when, chancing to glance in the direction of the North Ridge, I saw two curious-looking objects floating in the sky. They strongly resembled kite balloons in shape, but one possessed what appeared to be squat, underdeveloped wings, and the other a protuberance suggestive of a beak. They hovered motionless, but seemed slowly to pulsate, a pulsation incidentally much slower than my own heartbeats, which is of interest supposing it was an optical illusion. Yeah, I just, you see space animals up there on Everest, way high up there. There are many cases like this too. I'll go to a different thing that I wanted to read to you guys. Yeah, this is like a nighttime reading with me. Oh yeah, so this will teach you how to look for these things. Like, let's say if you go outside in the daytime or at nighttime and you want to try to observe these plasmatic beings, beings which actually have been filmed in great success by this channel, the Pink Smoke, which I suggest everybody go and check out. You can clearly see that these things are not your typical objects that are flying, and I mean, this person is just, what they've been able to accomplish is astounding and, should be revered. But, of course, your mainstream ufology community will never look at anything like this, Plasmatic living organisms? No way, right? Or the MH370 teleportation videos? No way, right? But the evidence is all there, and I mean, you can literally see these, and then you compare them to the, famed, what the recent whistleblower Browns or something, I don't know his name, who basically validated the Immaculate Constellation report, and just compare the characteristics to Project Condon and the many other reports on these phenomena, and you'll see that, these things are very real. So, yes, here we go. Allow your eyes to relax and do not focus on any one point in the heavens. Look instead at the whole inverted bowl of the night. Avoid conversation so that your attention is not diverted by other sensory stimuli. Once you have overcome the lifelong habit of focusing on or staring at one particular spot in the heavens, transferring your gaze only from spot to spot, you will find that any movement in the cosmic expanse above you will attract your attention instantly. You will find that the night is full of movement, and that it is barely possible to spend even 10 minutes without catching sight of something moving in the sky. So basically saying, you could see meteors, or, you could see something else. Here we go. Yeah, you will sight man-made satellites easily, which you will. It's very interesting. Time and time again, however, your vision will be drawn instantly to something that is not a meteor or satellite. You will become aware of the passage across our skies of whitish, translucent objects traveling at enormous velocities and becoming visible only for an instant. And yeah, this is like 100%. You can do this, and you will definitely experience that. What I find really interesting too is this report. Let's see. Your vision will adjust to catching these objects. If you persist in practicing the simple observational technique described, occasionally in the quiet of the night you will hear a distant crackling like that of static electricity as the objects zip across the heavens. Often they will leave a luminous trail etched against the stars for several seconds. An example of this trail appears in the alpha photograph made above George Van Tassel's home in Giant Rock. The trail appears like a pair of electrostatic rails along which these strange vehicles slide at thousands of miles per hour. Now, what does that sound like to all my people in the know? It sounds like the orbs from the MH370 teleportation videos. On the thermal flare footage, you can clearly see their propulsion system is pulling space towards them like rails that they follow. And these biological creatures that exist up in the thermosphere and in our atmosphere, these plasmatic beings, utilize that exact same form of propulsion just on a biological basis. We ourselves are plasmatic beings having this physical experience. But when when people traverse, OBEs or remote viewing, our consciousness is able to leave this physical body and travel through the ether, right? It's the exact same method of movement, just these plasmatic beings are plasma. They have a ability to appear solid in this realm, and in the extraterrestrial life, the thermosphere paper, it is said that how they do that is by electrically charging the space dust and other things in space-time matter. Okay, so I think there was something else I wanted to read to you guys. Let's see, hundreds of instances, frequently all too ethereal man. I love the way this guy talks too. It's very great. Okay. Here's another one. Investigators have serious need to accustom themselves to a significant point arising from these encounters, which so often involve metallic objects. The significant point is that metallic appearance, metallic effects, and metallic properties do not necessarily, and in all instances, indicate a machine. Humanoid entities dismounted from landed UFOs have sometimes been described as metallic looking. Some of these humanoids have appeared as resembling metallic asparagus. A Purcell of the 1966 Flying Saucer Review issue entitled The Humanoids well verifies this. In the Rio Vista case, as in many kindred incidents throughout the world, UFOs speak the language of the living when they are allowed free speech and not overridden by mechanistic preconceptions and biases. UFOs are frequently all too obviously biological. Earthman nevertheless compulsively imposes upon these phenomena the language of machines. Biological implications and inferences of the most obvious, glaring kind are evaded, ignored, or uncomprehended. Mechanistic thinkers subjected to these pervasive, culturally induced compulsions should properly be disqualified from authority in UFO investigations. Instead, they are placed in charge, barging into realms where their parameters and modes of thought are inapplicable. Adolescent trigalots of this stripe largely run science today. Their end is in sight, but they will die hard. Yeah, that's so on point. Like, just the way that he said that is so perfect. Let's see. There's something else here that I wanted to read to you guys. Oh, okay. So yeah, this is an interesting case. Let's see. Frank had to recount also very many years ago. Years ago, how two naval officers reported to him that they had watched a couple UFOs retreat hastily when they blundered into a strong radar field. These officers stated that the UFOs bounced back out of the radar beam like rubber balls striking a brick wall. There was no turning around or maneuvering. They simply bounced. This too is more typical of something living in the presence of an unpleasant stimulus than of a machine, right? So think about, if you were to hit a machine, the machine doesn't respond immediately to that sensation, and this characteristic of bouncing is something that we see in many Foo Fighter cases and other UFO cases. This is a living activity to bounce, right? To bounce away, like bunnies. Here we go. In the same article, Mr. Edwards related a similar incident at a New Jersey Cape that occurred in 1950. When UFOs were seen there repeatedly, the owner of the only house on the Cape, a very famous writer, notified the government. The next morning, he and his family were surprised to find 3 radar towers mounted on trucks, hidden in the brush along the beach. Why were they there? One of the officers explained that radar made the saucers stagger, and they hoped to be able to bring one down, as if they could get enough beams on the disc at close range. The radar did stagger the discs later that day, but did not bring them down. The discs sped away, and the radar trucks were withdrawn a few days later. So, yeah, what? This reminds me of what David Grush has said and what Lou Elizondo have both said about trying to set up traps for these, UFOs. Grush said something so amazing. He said maybe it's like flies to a picnic, right? In reference to what I believe was using nuclear material to bring these things towards them. And then they, as we see here from this case, hit them with radiation, which is basically a microwave. You're microwaving this creature, and it doesn't like it, so it, speeds away. Very, very interesting. And yeah, I just really, I really want to get people to realize this and to start thinking about the phenomenon this way, that a lot of these, and it's even said by many people, many prominent people in the UFO community, that these things were alive, that in some weird way. And even Bob Lazar, he speaks about going into one of these craft and not seeing any corners or seams or anything like that. He said it looked organic, and this makes me think about the mini Stargate or Star Trek episodes where you see a living craft, like a living space animal. It's kind of crazy, but it's real, Let's see if I can find something else that I saved that I wanted to relay to you all. Okay, so this is, basically Trevor James Constable, he was a radar technician and specialized in communications in World War II. And he was one of the first people to experience these apparitions that would pop up on their radar. And, they would tell the pilots, hey, you've got, 4 bogeys out there, they're huge. The pilots would go up to them and they would say, I can't see anything, but they're obviously, they're there, on the radar. And then they would just, they'd pop up somewhere else, and, the pilots over there would see them, and then they would disappear. Just like Kenneth Arnold, the guy who coined the flying saucer term, right? He said that they just disappeared. And this follows the Tedesco's research, where they say that these things can change from, our visible wavelength to infrared or something else. And infrared can still pop up on radar because, with the finger, they are able to feel electronically for objects that they cannot see with their eyes. That's so beautiful. Okay, I'm going to read this a little bit because it's beautiful. Radar differs from radio in the way in which the energy is radiated into the ether. Radio signals are focused into narrow beams only in specialized communications, but radar depends upon a focused beam of energy. The radiation of the energy from a radar antenna becomes like a long electromagnetic finger, which men are able to stick up into the air or extend across the surface of the sea. With this finger, they are able to feel electronically for objects that they cannot see with their eyes. The electronic finger penetrates fog, mist, and cloud. Radar is thus at once an extension of man's sight and an extension of his sense of touch. And, that's just, wow. When you think about it like that, that's exactly what it is. We're able to peer into the ether, and it's no wonder we started to find these angels, as they would call them, or the Foo Fighters, right? But yeah, it's just it's amazing. I think there are a ton more. This book is just so amazing, and I really suggest everybody read it. Here's one more story right here. Let's see. What is probably the most significant of all wartime radar detections of UFOs. There were between 200 and 300 objects involved. Here, I'll start over, sorry. In his book, Flying Saucer Conspiracy, published by Henry Holt and Company of New York, Major Donald Keyhole recounted what is probably the most significant of all wartime radar detections of UFOs. There were between 200 and 300 objects involved. All of them were ocularly invisible, called the Ninsi Shultu case because of its occurrence near the islands south of Okinawa. The event is one instance worth 1,000. The essential elements are sufficient for us here. The story was given to Major Keyhole by a U.S. Navy officer, pseudonymously identified as James Dawson, who had served as a combat information center officer aboard an aircraft carrier during the incident, Patrolling the area south of Okinawa in company with another aircraft carrier, Dawson's ship detected with radar a huge force of enemy aircraft approaching from the northeast. Initial radar contact was 120 miles. The blip or echo returning from the incoming force was very large, supporting an estimate of 200 to 300 aircraft. At 100 miles range, their speed was determined to be 650 knots, nearly 700 miles per hour. No known aircraft in the world at that time could attain such a speed. At 80 miles and at an altitude of 12,000 feet, the incoming force of aircraft began to spread out in two formations from the main body, as though preparing to assault the whole American task force. Only 12 aircraft were available as air cover for the U.S. ships, all other American aircraft being absent on strikes against Japanese positions in the Ryukyus. These 12 fighters were scrambled and vectored by Dawson towards the attacking force. In bright weather, with only scattered clouds at 5,000 feet, the American fighter pilots enjoyed unrestricted visibility. At 15,000 feet on intercept, they could see 50 miles, but they never did see the incoming 200 to 300 enemy aircraft. Detected accurately from the carrier to intercept the enemy, the veteran Navy fighter pilots could not see the attacking force even when directly above them. As seen on the carrier radar, the enemy nevertheless kept coming towards the task force, now at general quarters for the impending attack. Dawson warned the bridge by telephone that the enemy was almost upon them. The skipper told him he was crazy, that there was nothing to be seen in the sky. Radar still showed the horde of attackers. The inscrupulous Dawson went on deck himself and saw nothing. The flight director on the other carrier had also picked up the enemy machines on his radar. According to Major Keyhole, the U.S. Navy acknowledged after the war that there had been this inexplicable ghost of Nansenshito. There have been numerous neurotic attempts to verbalize away the significant incident, although there have been numerous subsequent incidents of similar character that have not been publicized, which we all know. Just imagine how many things they're not telling us. I have a friend who's actually pretty high up in the Navy, and when I got into this subject like 2 years ago, I asked him, because he was on an aircraft carrier, and I was like, hey man, I'm getting really into this stuff. Have you ever experienced anything out there? And I was like, are you even interested? And I swear this is what he said. He said, I can't talk about that, brother, but I definitely am interested. Like, yeah, I just wish I could know. And this is the closest that I can know. And it's just independent research. And I hope that this, puts a fire under people to realize that they can do it themselves as well. It's not that hard. It's actually very fulfilling and fun. You learn new things, and I mean, it's beautiful, honestly, and it's a true sign of independence from the totalitarian oligarchs who, have their hands around the throat of the free-thinking population, right? This is the revolution right here, is independent research. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you all. So I hope you all have a beautiful day, night, morning, or maybe this is in the future and it's being, holographically projected by some half sentient AI, half sentient, half human, and yeah, they just want to know about the past. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, I love you all, and much love. Peace out.